Many thanks for joining us on the programme. It's nice to see you. So, Daniel, what do you make of this split among American nations when it comes to dealing with Russia and Ukraine?
Greetings, Nikki. For a long time, Washington has been used to seeing the Organization of American States, since its founding in 1948, as an instrument of their policy. To have so much rebellion within their ranks comes as a surprise. For how long could they control the foreign policy, specifically of Mexico, and now Brazil, Argentina, and of course the Bolivarian bloc countries have said, no, we're not going to go along with your foreign policy. We can see very clearly that NATO is just as guilty, is the principal guilty party that has brought this aggression to Russia's borders.
Yeah, big states like Brazil, Argentina and Mexico are also among those who refuse to condemn Russia. Why do you think they chose to do that? Because, like you say, they see NATO as the aggressor?
Yeah, it's definitely a new day. They've also said they're no longer going to support Juan Guaido as this artificial president in Venezuela, who's never had the recognition of the 30 million people of Venezuela. So things are rapidly moving to the left. I think this is another signal that the era of U.S. hegemony, of running roughshod over country sovereignty across the world, is coming to a screeching halt. Brazilians will go back to the polls in another 3 weeks, and Brazil should be headed more to the left, which will mean that Brazil will rejoin CELAC and these other Latin American Bolivarian bodies. So definitely Washington is frightened over this.
Yeah, you see, it seems like more and more states of this region are just willing to decide for themselves what opinion they choose and whose side they're on. So do you think it's because these countries are becoming more independent, or do you think it is because Washington's influence is just growing weaker on them?
Yeah, we're living in a increasingly changing world. I don't think we have to no longer speculate over the death knell of U.S. Unipolarity. I think we are all witnesses to it. I tell my college students every day, this is not 1991. This is not 2003, when the U.S. could just invade Iraq or Afghanistan or do away with Libyan sovereignty in 2011. They are feeling more and more resistance, whether it's from the countries trading with the Silk Road Initiative of the Chinese, or countries that are standing with Russia militarily or diplomatically or economically, and of course the Bolivarian countries, which have spearheaded this effort here in the hemisphere.
We can see that relations are improving between Russia and Brazil as well. Do you think we can expect more countries to follow?
I think definitely. Look at the elections this year in Colombia. What will this mean internally in many of these countries? These are massive confrontations within Peru, within Mexico. It's ongoing in Brazil, so there's no easy victories, there's no promises. But certainly every day, the foreign policy of these different countries in South America, in the Caribbean, in all of the third world are becoming more and more independent of Washington.
Back in April, when Russia's status of an observer was scrapped, Venezuela's foreign minister criticised the Organization of American States. He called it a useless body that's lost its relevance. What do you think of that statement? Is it relevant today?
Relevant only on the side of imperial foreign policy makers who would continue to see Central America and the Caribbean and all of the exploited countries as the background of the United States. There's new multilateral bodies, there's Telesur and there's Mercosur and there's Unisur, and all these. Lula's floated the idea of the Sur as a Latin American united currency. So all of these initiatives, which are truly multilateral, this is what Washington is afraid of. But we can't downplay the 1,000 U.S. military bases and installations that continue to be a stain on humanity in over 140 countries across the globe.
The US Secretary of State, he's welcomed this resolution to condemn Russia. But do you think that Washington is satisfied with the number of countries that have supported its stance on this?
Washington will continue 25 hours a day, 8 days a week to monitor all of the ins and outs, all of the contradictions, whether it's within Chile with this failed referendum, but people truly wanting change nonetheless, whether it's within Peru, where the executive The presidency is more radical, certainly, than the Congress, which is very right-wing. Every country has its own national dynamics. And the purpose of U.S. intelligence and the State Department and the Pentagon is to continue to try to defend their interests in all of these countries, both in openly meddling ways and then, of course, behind the curtains as usual.
Daniel Shaw, Professor of Latin America and Caribbean Studies from the City University of New York. Many thanks for your time. We really appreciate your insight.
Thank you, Nikki.